Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I will call this meeting to order, our council meeting of May 3rd, 2017. We will start with a moment of reflection. Do we have Dick Hulls here? Please come forward to the center stage here. I don't know.
My name is Joe Rhoda, and Dick Hulls is not here today.
Thank you.
You bet. And I represent the committee for the North County Prayer Breakfast, which is held annually at the California Center for the Arts on the first Thursday of May, which is the National Day of Prayer, and that's tomorrow. So let's pray. Heavenly Father, we give pause to thank you for our blessings, for our health and friends, and for our life circumstances that allow us to be part of this community. We thank you for our nation. We thank you for the prosperity we enjoy compared to much of the rest of the world, and for the many freedoms we have. Lord, I would pray that you would grant wisdom to these city leaders as they weigh in on the many important issues that they need to wade through. Give each and every council member the good judgment they need to fairly govern our community with a real sense of the true needs of the people they serve. May this gathering do what would be pleasing to you and benefit all who live, work, and go to school in Escondido. We pray in Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you. I'd like to ask Councilmember Morasco to lead us in the pledge.
Please follow me.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call indicates that all council members are here. I'd like to make a brief announcement from the closed session. The City Council unanimously decided to hire interim City Attorney Mike McGinnis as the City Attorney, and also the City Council unanimously decided to hire interim City Manager Jeff Epp as the City Manager. So a press release will be going out tomorrow. Thank you very much, and congratulations to both. Great. We have a couple of presentations. I would like first to ask Reed Harlan from the Water Treatment and Water Distribution Superintendents to join me to present the proclamation for Water Awareness Month and Drinking Water Week. Support from the community is strong, so we have a one young. Water Awareness Month, Drinking Water Week. Water is our most valuable natural resource, and in any measure of a successful society, economic growth, productivity, and public safety are in some way related to access to safe water. The water produced in Escondido by a team of very dedicated staff, they deliver public health protection, fire protection, support of our economy, and our quality of life. Our responsibility to provide reliable water for the future generations is our obligation. Our community is asked to help to protect our source of water from pollution, to protect water conservation, and understand and get involved in local water issue. Therefore, on behalf of the City Council, hereby proclaim the month of May 2017 as Water Awareness Month, and May 7th to 13th, 2017 as Drinking Water Week. And on behalf of the city, I think we have a couple of gentlemen that they will receive this proclamation. You want to say something? Sure. Okay.
On behalf of the staff
and myself, the water treatment plant. We appreciate you recognizing us and our efforts in being efficient and stuff with our drinking water. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Well, I think they pretty much covered it, but yes, I'd like to thank City Council and our mayor for taking the time to recognize all the hardworking folks that it takes to provide a safe drinking product to our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations. Okay. There we go. Okay, now I would like to invite Vanita Hartmann. Where is Vanita? Hey, here. Okay. Great. You're not leaving us, are you? Okay. Well, Vanita, well, thank you. You have been here for many years, and we thank you for your contribution to our great city. Vanita Hartmann, known to many as the Water Lady, is retiring from the Utilities Department after nearly 16 years of service to the city of Escondido. During those years, Vanita has presented a message of valuing and protecting our water resources to tens of thousands of children through activities, songs, and special puppet named Wabi. Whatever that Wabi is, we should have brought him with you. Oh, okay. There we go. We have Wabi here with us. Okay. And she has been instrumental in the 4th grade poster contest that showcases what students have learned about water. The lessons she has taught will continue to be part of the lives of these students, their families, and their communities well into the future. Therefore, on behalf of the City of Escondido, hereby extend this certificate of recognition to Vanita Hartmann with the best wishes for a happy retirement. Congratulations.
First, I'd like to thank the city and the teachers and all the parents for letting me work with your children. It's been a wild but wonderful career. I have a couple of things to share with you, things that will be I will have these memories forever and ever. One of my first classes was 3rd grade, and a little boy said, "Would you be my date for the Halloween party?" And another one said, "Are you going to show a movie? Gee, I've got a front row seat." And the third one of the little ones where I take the rabbit puppet to the class, said, "Would it be possible to arrange a play date with Wabby? Just tell me where you want my mom to pick him up and she'll be there." So thank you very much. It's been a wonderful career.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, back to our agenda. We are at oral communications.
No, we have an awards presentation.
Oh, I'm sorry. The most important part of the night. How can I miss that? Now will be the Be Water Smart Poster Contest Awards.
That's why we're all here this afternoon. So good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm Kim Silva with the Environmental Programs Division of the Utilities Department. Along with me is Elisa Marone and Vanita Hartmann. We are here today to celebrate a very special program and want to thank you for your support of today's contest and the ongoing efforts of the Environmental Programs Division. We also want to welcome all of you and thank you for your support for celebrating our Water Awareness Poster Contest winners with us today. We invite the winners, their families, and teachers to join us after the presentation for a reception in the Dome area. This annual Be Water Smart contest asks 4th graders to create a poster showing how water is life for each of us. This year we saw posters that covered ideas such as why water is important, how we use it, ways to protect it, and how to use it efficiently. Vanita went to over 40 4th grade classrooms throughout Escondido this year to teach students why water is such a precious resource. In turn, we received over 300 posters, and city employees helped with the difficult task of choosing our top winners. Contestants were judged on artistic skills and representation of the theme Be Water Smart. Today we are recognizing our top 12 winners, which will be displayed at the Carl's Jr. on West Valley Parkway, here at City Hall in the lobby, at our library for the month of May, and also online at our utilities website and the Escondido Water Facebook page. The top 3 winners that will be announced today will be featured in the next year's Water Awareness Calendar, along with the other winners from other North County agencies. As a token of our appreciation, we are presenting our students and teachers with gifts that were generously donated by the following businesses listed above. Big thank you to them. And before we announce our winners, I know you've all been waiting patiently, I would like to remind all of you of some of our other programs. For example, we offer workshops that provide homeowners tools on how to convert their yards into a water smart landscape. We also offer free water smart checkups that bring a professional technician to review your irrigation system to make sure that it's running efficiently. You can also go on to SoCalWatersmart.com to visit to look for all available rebates. These are just some of the many tools we offer to help you get the most out of your water. You can also find more information by talking to us today or going online at escondido.org, Water Conservation, or on our Facebook page at Escondido Water. At this time, I'd like to invite down the mayor again and Elisa Marone, and they will start the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. As she said, my name is Elisa Marone with the Environmental Program.
Sorry, before. Can I invite the entire council to come down here with me and shake hands with the kids? That would be nice.
Okay, so students, what we're going to do is I call your name, please join me up here. You'll receive your certificate from the mayor and greet our city council, and then you're going to walk over here and get your prize bag. Please, winners, stay up here in the front until we've called all the winners. Teachers, we invite you to join your students up here as well. When we have all the winners, we'll come and take some pictures quickly, and then we'll move outside and we can take more pictures. We'll let the council get on with the rest of their business. And then after we take our group pictures outside, individual pictures with your posters, snacks, refreshments, and we'll do some more socializing out there. So yes, but I think you have work to do in here. You're welcome to join us. So let's get started with our 2017 poster winners. The first of our winners is Anna Morales from LR Green with Mrs. Bueller.
Congratulations, Anna. Good job.
And if you want to. Thank you. Our next winner is Adrian Medina, also from LR Green with Mrs. Bueller.
Okay.
Mayor.
Give me some high five. Yes, there we go.
Our next winner is Andrea Fabian at Farr Elementary with Mrs. Wallner. And teachers, remember, if you're here, please join us.
Good job. There we go.
Our next winner is Cesar Duran, also with Farr, and Mrs. Wallner is his teacher.
Good job, Caesar. There we go.
Our next winner, Emmanuel Acevedo from Heritage K Charter with Mr. Robertson. Oh, sorry. Our next winner is Zoe Ifantidis from Heritage K Charter with Mrs. Mir Mohammadi.
Congratulations. There we go.
Thank you. Our next winner is Val Fresco from the Classical Academy with Mrs. Sheehy.
Congratulations. Excellent. There we go.
Thank you. Our next winner is Alyssa Williamson, also at the Classical Academy with Mrs. Alvarado.
Good job. Thank you. Congratulations. There we go.
Our next winner is Isla Ordonez from Conway Elementary with Mr. Blanchard.
Good job, Isela. Good job. Thank you. Thank you. thank you.
Next up, we have our third place winner, Alondra Sanchez from Orange Glen Elementary with Mrs. Laney.
Congratulations, there we go.
Our second place winner is next, Noelle Sanchez from Conway Elementary with Mrs. Brady.
Congratulations, there we go.
And our first place winner is Aiden Rojas from Central Elementary with Mr. Ruiz.
Very creative, you did that? That's beautiful, very good.
Thank you to all our students and teachers. Let's give them a big round of applause. Parents, we have a minute for some pictures if you want to head up here. But remember, we'll have plenty of time for pictures outside. So take some group pictures for 1 minute and we'll head outside. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor.
You.
It's heavy.
Oh, good. Here. They can't see you. Scoot over there so they can take some pictures. Okay, thank you very much. Let's head out to the fountain. We'll take some group pictures. To the fountain? Okay, head out to the fountain for some group pictures, and then we'll have our refreshments. Thank you. Oh, I'll give it to Christina. Oh, okay.
Okay, we'll go back to our council meeting here. We have oral communication. Communications, I have one request. Kathy Hohen, please come forward. State your name, the city, and you have 3 minutes.
My name is Katie Hain, and I live at 1110 West Country Club Lane in Escondido. I am here to thank our City Councilman John Masson, our City Attorney Jeff Epp, Jamie Zeller with Code Enforcement, and Sandra Bauer with the Fire Department for having the hand crews with weed whackers clean up the 3 to 4 foot high weeds along Country Club Lane between Nutmeg and La Brea last week. From personal experience, I know how hard the landowner, Michael Schlesinger, is to work with. And my neighbors and I appreciate the city taking the high road and getting the property cleaned up for its constituents. Thank you very much. Okay. As a homeowner in the Escondido Country Club community for over 20 years, I'm hoping we can continue to count on your support and the support of the entire City Council in opposing the massive 392-home housing project proposed by New Urban West. Our community was never designed to handle the density proposed. I ask you to review the white paper submitted by ECHO outlining the density transfers dating back 50 to 60 years ago at the time of the initial construction. While I realize we may never get our golf course back, please consider a more realistic development plan with no more than 135 homes as detailed in the white paper. Thank you. And thank you again for cleaning up our neighborhood.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Okay, we'll go on to our consent calendar. I would like to pull item 4, and I need a motion to approve the remainder. I have a motion by Councilmember Morasco, second by Councilmember Olga Diaz. Please vote.
5 yes votes.
Excellent. Item 4 is an amendment to Section 12H of the Mobile Home Rent Review Board guidelines. We have here Julie Poley representing the Mobile Home Park folks. So 3 minutes, Julie.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. I'm Julie Polly with the WMA, and I'm just asking for a continuance, so maybe there's time for our city staff to do some outreach to park owners. We perceive this as being potentially impactful to the short form application process, and there's been no communication or outreach to park owners. We got notified yesterday through my messaging notification service, and I had a hard time getting a hold of all the park owners. So if we could have a continuation on this item, and maybe there's time to have more of a dialogue and an education on our part. I outlined a couple of questions that came to mind. I'm sure the park owners would have some directly for staff. So I don't think this is necessarily something we'd be opposed to. We just have some unanswered questions.
Okay, great, thank you. I close the public hearing. Back to the City Council. Councilmember Diaz.
Well, I'm glad you pulled it, Sam, because I was going to pull it if you didn't. And I actually think that it's a very welcome change. It's a change that residents, not owners, but residents have asked for years, many years. And essentially it allows written protest of rent review hearings using the short form to be submitted without having to be present. There is a criteria that if over 50% of the residents who live under rent control in a park that is having their rent reviewed, that if 50% plus one sign in protest, that automatically creates a situation where rather than the short form, the park owner might have to go to the long form. And for many years, for all these years, seniors in mobile home parks with mobility challenges, they can't get here without somebody driving them, or they can't drive at night, and these hearings are in the evening, have not been able to come and speak on their own behalf, and have not been allowed to submit a written comment and have that count. They've submitted letters, but they've never counted toward that 50%. So to me, this is a very welcome change that supports the seniors that live in our mobile home parks that would not otherwise, that historically have not been able to participate and would not ever be able to participate if it wasn't for this change. So I think it's a positive. I read it and I was actually very pleasantly surprised, and I'm glad to see it coming. I know it's been a request for many, many years. And so I don't have a reason to hold back. I think we can move forward with it. I don't think anything would change. It's my understanding that we are also required to adopt this change. So I don't know if the city manager cares to fill us in on that a little bit more.
Let me just make a comment, if you don't mind, Mike. The good news about the short form, that it has been working very well. And I think it has been a success procedures to avoid the litigation and the long form and everything else. I want to correct Councilmember Diaz in two things. It's not a criteria right now. It's just a guidelines, a non-binding guidelines. If the 51% of the mobile home park residents show up, then the council may or may not warrant the 75% of the CPI. They can give 60, they can give 50, they can go do whatever. So it is really a good indication to the council to do it. I believe I'm always, I have no problem supporting feedback from the mobile home park residents in written form. And if we are going to adopt these guidelines just for the council to accept those as a feedback, written feedback, I welcome that. But if you're changing the rules of the short form without discussing it with the mobile home park owners, it is not a good process. The good process is the short form of the mobile home park rent control short form has been created with dialogue and negotiations with both parties. We cannot unilaterally do that. The grand jury, somebody complained to the grand jury. The grand jury has no business to impose on us regulations and city business. They just sent me an email, and I sent it to the city manager, city attorney. I said, I don't know what the issue is, but definitely it's going to give an advantage to one party. And I want to agree with the mobile home park representative who doesn't mind maybe this, but at least to sit down and negotiate that and maybe refine it more to make it better for the short form process. Maybe the mobile home park owners have also some good ideas as well. So now I would go back to Mike Morasco, or you want the city managers to comment on this? Why don't you go, Jeff, and make some comments?
Well, having been involved in the original short form process, I think the concern that the park owners expressed was that a single person could go around in a park and gather a petition and bring the petition in and effectively thwart the short form requirement that more than 50% show up. And so that was why the actual appearance was required in there. At the other end of the scale, there certainly are occasions where one or two people may not be able to make it. This change that the grand jury was requesting, and they were only just requesting that we make the change, this change would require a signed affidavit of physical hardship. Well, I read affidavit, and the city attorney can chime in, but to be a statement under penalty of perjury that they have a physical hardship and can't attend. So I certainly don't think it's going to, it wasn't our view as staff anyway, that it would open the floodgates to shenanigans with the short form process. It still would be very difficult. Somebody would have to sign an affidavit that they couldn't, they had a physical hardship and could not attend the hearing.
Okay. Councilmember Morasco.
I have one more question.
Okay.
I didn't get anything from the grand jury. In the past, when the grand jury has considered other things in the city, we usually get like a report. Is it?
Let me clarify.
This one came in, it was actually a request for a meeting with the mayor.
Right.
And then they ended up sending a letter. So I don't know how they ended up.
So I haven't had the benefit of reading whatever it is they sent to know if it was a requirement or a suggestion or
it was
whatever.
Recommendation, and it was addressed to me, and they wanted to meet with me, so I sent it to Jeff and Mike to look into this, and they came up with this recommendation. I was not aware that they did not meet with the mobile home park owners, and I think whatever merit it has to be communicated to the mobile home park owners because they were at the table when they came up with the short form. So, okay, Councilmember Morasco.
I pretty much agree with what Ms. Diaz was saying as far as the fact that this is something that has been desired for a long time for a certain percentage of the individuals who have either physical or other reasons why they could not attend the short form hearings that we had. And I believe that ultimately we will wind up approving this, and that hopefully after the mobile home park owners have the opportunity to discuss and ask their questions and get those answered, that everyone will be on the same page. We'll see that this is actually a positive thing, will work effectively for everyone involved, that the possibilities of shenanigans could be discussed, and perhaps we can tweak this so that we have a little bit more guaranteed, such as making it subject to a penalty for under perjury, or at least seeing what the affidavit is and how it's structured and how it's worded, and how do we actually analyze and police and determine whether or not it's valid. And so those are just questions I think people are going to have. It makes sense. So if at all possible, I would certainly support at least putting a vote off on this until we've had that opportunity to communicate, and then bring it back. And if it comes back to us in this particular form, I would have no problem in approving it.
Did you also hear the mayor say maybe we want to refresh the whole process? I think I heard you say something like that.
I think a meeting between the residents and the mobile home park owners might come up with some more idea. If not, that's fine. I think give them the opportunity to look at the changes they both desire and bring it back, bring a consensus back. It doesn't hurt. I think the short form has worked well for the city. We have approved 95% of them, and when we saw deficiencies in maintenance, we did not warrant that. So I was, remember, I don't know if you remember 10, 15 years ago before the short form, it was a nightmare. It was so contentious, it was so divisive, and we had people fighting with each other, and who suffered the most? The mobile home park residents, because they would not make improvement. But right after the short form, I think a tremendous amount of investment and improvement has been made to the mobile home parks, and I think that is the benefit of the short form. Let them meet, let them decide with our staff, and then come back with some recommendations. Councilmember Gallo.
Good argument. First of all, I'd like to welcome the students from Escondido High School, right? EHS. A lot of nodding heads. Okay. I hope you guys all get A's, because this is really good stuff. This suggestion has been offered to previous rent hearings for many years. How many people are involved? I would say over the past, let's see, I've been 15 years. There might be a dozen people, I don't know. But there are legitimate reasons why people can't show up for a rent hearing. The only thing that I would ask is that there's no timeline for the affidavit to be presented to the council. In other words, they could send one, they could probably email one at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Now, our meeting starts at 4:30. We have time to verify the validity of the...
Mike wants to...
Actually, if you look at the proposed language, it does include the submission of the affidavit to the city clerk before the close of the public hearing. So it could happen at any time before the hearing is closed.
During the hearing.
It could.
Then how do we validate whether that person is legitimately a resident who the rent hearing affects?
You would have that same problem no matter what. You'd have to have some investigation with respect to the affidavit, because the intent would be that it would be under oath, just like any other kind of declaration under oath, forcing that person to declare under the penalty of perjury that they are disabled and unable to attend. So if we got that 5 days before, what level of investigation would you be undergoing anyways? So that's, at least there's a time frame included as the proposed language.
Okay. Councilmember Gallo.
No, that's it.
Okay, Councilmember Masson.
Thank you. At the risk of repeating what my colleague said, I agree. I think waiting a little bit just to flush this out isn't going to hurt anybody. So I would move that we continue this to the next hearing.
So there is a motion by Deputy Mayor Masson to continue this item until both parties have met with our staff and come back with a recommendation.
May I ask a clarifying question? Yeah. Both parties, like...
Mobile home park residents and mobile home park owners.
So there will be a public meeting invitation so they all know where to show up, because they're not all... I mean, I know Julie represents some of them, but I don't know if you know all of them, and the residents in the different parks don't necessarily all communicate.
I think we should communicate to all of them, and maybe Julie can coordinate that, but at least they will have, we would inform them about this issue, and whoever wants to meet, that's fine, but I think it will be coordinated by our city attorney's office. Is that?
For me, it's more of a communication with the owners, right? They're the ones that haven't had any input on this thing. I think we're protecting the residents. Right. And I think it's a good thing to have the option for these folks to be able to do this. No, I don't think it needs to take that long. I think it's a simple, back and forth with our staff, and a couple of weeks we see it again.
As long as they're including us as part of that discussion, because we need to generate the language and propose it to you.
Absolutely. Okay, I have a motion. Back to the motion by Deputy Mayor Masson. Can we have that? I don't have any motion on the screen here.
So I'm sorry, again, the delay is how long?
Is to continue this until both parties meet with our staff and come back with
no,
if we need a time
until their questions are answered.
Okay, but they get one shot at asking questions, or if they want to ask questions for a year, that's how long? I'm just asking for clarifying language so the expectation is clear.
Our next meeting, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it could happen that quickly or within 30 days.
As soon as they meet. It's a large group. Okay. Okay. We'll do it as soon as we can, but putting timeline a week or two, we want to do it. It's not going to be months. We want to come back and make this this work. Do we need to make it a time? Do we need to make it time certain?
It would be helpful to do maybe not to exceed a certain time period because we're going to have to notice the hearing.
60 days?
We need to ensure that.
30 days? Okay. 60 days? Not more. If we can do it in 30, that would be fine.
You're going to be getting into July at that point, and you're going to run out of time.
Before our summer break or whatever, as far as I'm concerned.
2 months from now. That's fine. Before that, if it happened before, that's fine. Okay, so I have a motion to continue that item no more than 2 months and bring it back to the council. Can I have the...
Jennifer,
is this working?
I don't have the motion in the second screen.
It's not working.
Okay, so we have to do it by voice?
Yes.
Okay, I have a motion by Deputy Mayor Masson. I need a second. I have a second by Councilmember Morasco. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
2. Councilmember Gallo and Councilmember Diaz are opposed. Thank you. All right. We move on to item 7. Public hearing. Public hearing for City of Escondido Landscape Maintenance District Zones I through 38. Staff report, please.
Good evening, Mayor Abed, City Council members, City staff, and residents. It's my pleasure this evening to introduce Management Analyst Gabrielle Restivo. She's the one that runs our 38 landscape maintenance districts in the City of Escondido from a financial standpoint, and she has a short presentation for you tonight with regards to this public hearing that's part of the process we have to go through.
Thank you. Each year, the City Council reviews and approves the assessment engineer's report that details the budget and assessment for each zone in the city's landscape maintenance district. As part of this review and approval process, a public hearing is held to give the property owners in each zone an opportunity to comment on the proposed budget and levy for the upcoming year. This is the purpose of the public hearing tonight. No council action is required. Tonight's hearing covers landscape maintenance zones 1 through 38. On April 5th, 2017, the City Council ordered and preliminarily approved the assessment engineer's report for zones 1 through 38 of fiscal year 2017-18 and set a public hearing date for tonight, May 3rd, 2017. Final action will be taken on June 7th, 2017. Vegetation in the landscape maintenance districts was hit hard by the storms following the drought. We lost a lot of trees in Brookside, Parkwood, Laurel Valley, and vegetation throughout the LMD, including Eureka Springs. We will be focusing on replacing the trees and vegetation within the limits of each operating budget this coming fiscal year. The city received SoCal WaterSmart rebates for a web-based irrigation system that allows maintaining the system from mobile platforms. This system, which responds to weather conditions, can also be programmed to save water cost and can report system malfunctions. Additionally, the city received funding for nozzles that apply water more efficiently, so less water is wasted through evaporation. The city looks forward to quantifying water savings and cost with increased use of the system. Again, no council action is required tonight. Thank you. That concludes staff's presentation.
Great, thank you. It is a public hearing, so I'll open the public hearing. And do we have any requests to speak, City Clerk? No. All right, we'll close the public hearing. Back to council, the discussion, and we don't need to vote on that. First, Councilmember Diaz.
I always, every year when we have these updates, I always look at the map of all of the landscape maintenance districts in the city, and I notice they're all around the perimeter of the city. And some of the areas we would most benefit from having landscape maintenance districts are in the older urban core areas of the city. And I think I've asked every year, like, what does it take to start one? I don't know if I just need to offer to help. Like, do I need to knock on doors myself to help? Because there are parts of the city that we don't maintain, and the residents and the businesses don't. Nobody's maintaining them, and they stand to be improved through having more maintenance districts in this area.
They are initiated by property owners, I believe.
Let me jump in here, and first I'd like to apologize. I'm Ed Deming, I'm the Public Works Director, but I thought my staff was more important, so I apologize for not saying it, who I was there. All they have to do is to come to City Hall or go on our website, and there's an application process for people to form a landscape maintenance district. The cost is minimal to do that. The procedure's pretty easy, and the staff sitting next to me is very accommodating with regards to helping them do it. The problem tends to be that getting a large group of people to agree to have their taxes assessed to pay for their landscaping, it's usually difficult. So most of the landscape maintenance districts that are formed are usually formed because a developer is developing a very large project, and that's when there's a agreement that they want to maintain a certain appearance for the area. I agree with you. I wish our whole city was in a landscape maintenance district because we could have a more uniform approach to the appearance in the city.
Okay. Even as we develop density projects in the urban core, like, we should just tack that on, because we are trying to spur increased development in the core. And some of the newer, nicer big complexes, they look nice now, but I want them to look nice 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now. And it sounds like the easiest thing to do is front load that language into a development agreement.
It's my feeling that they could use that as a marketing issue with the project too. The fact that the maintenance will be maintained at a very high level for the rest of forever.
So I'm going to go download this form and see if I can figure out which neighborhood I can practice in to see if we can add some districts. So thank you, and I look forward to the actual meeting in the future.
Okay. I don't have any more requests to speak. You have? Okay, Councilmember Gallo.
Can't help myself. The hardest problem is landscape districts are created when a new development is built. The homeowners have no choice in the matter. Okay? If they want to live there, that fee is already included in their monthly expenses. Now you're going to go out and talk to people and say, hey, look, you should add X amount of dollars to your tax bill every year so that we can maintain the median out there, and it'll look a lot nicer. My feeling is that people are going to look at you like, okay.
Right now, we get the emails from people about the cleanups that they want done in their neighborhood, and we send it to the city manager, who eventually gets some of the things done when possible. But imagine never having to send that email or make that call again. It just gets done because there's a maintenance district.
But did they ever think of doing it themselves? That's my point.
Well, some of those areas are not privately owned.
Okay. With that, I think we have a clear direction. That's as clear as it's going to get.
We do. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right. We move on to item 8. Public hearing regarding the fiscal year 2017-18 one-year action plan for use of community development block grant CDBG and home investment partnership home funds. Staff report, please.
Quite a mouthful, isn't it? So, good afternoon, Mayor and Council members. I'm Karen Ewell, Housing and Neighborhood Services Manager. Agenda item number 8 is a presentation and discussion of the status of the 2017-2018 HUD one-year action plan and staff recommendations for allocations in response to a request for proposals for home funds released in March of 2017. Each year, the city receives CDBG, home, and ESG funds from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD. The city must complete an annual action plan to specifically designate the use of each year's fiscal funds, or each fiscal year's funds. CDBG funds must be used to meet one of 3 national objectives in order to benefit low and moderate income residents of our community, and capital improvements must be in a CDBG eligible census tract, as seen on the screen. Home funds can be used only for the development of affordable housing, and ESG funds can be used to provide homeless or homelessness prevention services. On March 8th, the City Council held a public hearing to reaffirm the community development priorities adopted in the fiscal year 2015-2019 5-year consolidated plan and released 3 requests for proposals. We have received responses to these requests for proposals. Congress, however, has not been able to complete the budget process for HUD's fiscal year 2017-2018 appropriation. Therefore, HUD has not been able to provide us with an estimated fiscal year 2017-2018 allocation. Without a local allocation estimate, Escondido cannot prepare an action plan which commits those specific dollars. HUD has therefore permitted grantees to delay the submission of an action plan until 60 days after the date that allocations are announced, or August 16th, whichever is first. Last Sunday, mouth doesn't work quite well. Last Sunday, a potential federal budget was proposed. A vote in Congress is expected, hopefully this week, and we anticipate that allocations will be announced soon thereafter. We should therefore recommend delaying the finalization of the action plan and request a continuance of the discussion of the fiscal year 2017-2018 funds until June 7th of 2017. While the CDBG and ESG RFPs are for fiscal year 2017-2018 funds, the home RFP was for funds that the city has already received. Approximately $111,700 of these funds are fiscal year 2015-2016 funds, which must be fully committed to a project or the funds will have to be returned to HUD. The city received questions from 3 developers in response to the RFP. 1 proposal from Interfaith Community Services was received. Although there were Community Housing Development Organization funds available, no CHODOs applied for funding. The CHODO funds can be held over for an additional year until a qualifying CHODO project can be identified. The proposal meets the criteria of the RFP, and Interfaith intends to use these funds to assist families who are at risk of homelessness. Staff recommends funding this proposal. Interfaith Community Services has proposed the purchase of 557 to 563 Astor Street, a 4-plex just north of the East Valley Parkway target area, just east of Washington Park. Each of the 4 units has 2 bedrooms and will be restricted for families earning less than 60% of the area median income. Interfaith intends to use these units to rapidly rehouse even lower income households who have housing choice vouchers, but who cannot find landlords who are willing to accept those vouchers. This will allow families to build a positive rental history so that they can be more appealing to landlords. And Interfaith supportive services will be available to residents to help them work towards greater self-sufficiency. Interfaith has been working to address blight in this neighborhood since 1993 and now owns 17 of the 28 4-plexes in the neighborhood. Each building that they have purchased is rehabilitated, improving the neighborhood. And additionally, in 2015, Interfaith and Sustainable Heroes built a new outdoor landscape, garden, and playground for Interfaith residents. Interfaith is requesting $450,000 to purchase and rehabilitate the property. This is approximately 49% of the total budget. The subsidy per unit is $112,500, which is well within the range of recent housing projects. The remaining funds will be provided from an unrestricted bequest from the estate of Joan and Lee James. This funding is available to Interfaith now, which means that most of the milestones for commitment have been or can easily be met within the time frame. Rehabilitation will focus on deferred project maintenance and is expected to include repairs and replacements within the kitchens and bathrooms, new flooring, roof repairs, painting, and safety improvements. Exterior improvements will also be made. This project will address the elimination of blight and urban renewal to continue to improve an aging neighborhood. The proposed Astor Street Rehabilitation Project successfully addresses several city housing priorities contained within Escondido's policy documents, including our CON plan and our 2015 2016 and 2016-17 action plans, including the expansion of stock of affordable rental housing and promoting neighborhood stability by increasing the length of stay in rental housing. The allocation of funds will be in the form of a low-interest loan. Additionally, regulatory covenants will be recorded to assure continued affordability. So at this time, staff would like to recommend the adoption of Resolution 2017-66, authorizing a commitment of $450,000 in home funds to Interfaith Community Services for the acquisition and rehab of 557 to 563 Astor Street. Staff would also like to recommend the continuance of the public hearing until June 7, 2017, in regards to the fiscal year 2017-2018 one-year action plan to allow HUD to publish next year's allocations for the city of Escondido. I've contacted representatives from each organization who applied for CDBG and ESG funding to let them know that staff has recommended continuance of the budget discussion. So this concludes staff's presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions. Interfaith Community Services is represented tonight by its Executive Director, Greg Angel, who is prepared to address council and answer any questions.
Okay, any question at this time from staff before I open the public hearing? Okay, I will open this public hearing and invite Greg Angel from Interfaith Community Service. Just tell us a little bit more about Astor Street. I know Astor was a disaster before Interfaith went in there, and how many units do we have, and how many homeless we can house under this proposed grant.
Absolutely, Honorable Mayor, council members, always a pleasure to join you, and wonderful to talk about a real success story here in Escondido, and that's the revitalization of the Astor Street neighborhood and turning a community that really was very much crime-ridden and very plagued by issues of drugs, gangs, prostitution, and other criminal activities into a place of hope and restoration for individuals, veterans, seniors, and families overcoming homelessness. We're excited through this project to add another fourplex to our portfolio. Ms. Huell gave an excellent report citing the number of fourplexes we, as an agency, as a public nonprofit organization, own on the block already. That's 17 of the 28 total buildings. They are almost all fourplex apartment buildings, save one, which is a 7-unit building in the back corner in the Astor-Crofton intersection. This will be the 18th, a fourplex building, and we will provide permanent housing for very low-income families, as Ms. Huell indicated, with a preference for families who are overcoming homelessness and have other difficulties obtaining affordable housing. They'll be able to stay there as long as they would like. Some may stay for many years. Some may stay for less than a year as they rebuild a foundation and move on to other locations.
Question, Greg, we appreciate your partnership. Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Councilmember Gallo.
So the tenants are referred by ICS, or, I mean, somebody driving down the street sees a, I don't know if you put a for rent sign out, would they be able to call you, or they have to be referred from your agency?
So there are a number of ways to submit an application. Reaching out to us is one, hearing about it through this meeting. We also participate in a regional planning system throughout the county to identify individuals who have the resources and are a good fit for this. And the sad reality is there are far more individuals and families in need of this housing
Amen.
than a relatively small 4-unit project will serve, so it will go very quickly.
But it's a good start. And I've lived in Escondido long enough to remember Astor Street before you guys started buying and rehabbing the units over there. It was a tough neighborhood, but you guys have done a wonderful job out there.
I think it's important because, there's often a NIMBY-ism when it comes to helping individuals overcome homelessness. Great, that's fantastic, but we don't want to do it here. We'd like to do it somewhere else. And it's really a wonderful example. Anyone who hasn't been there, I invite you to reach out
I mean, it really looks nice. The grass is
Well, because it's a wonderful community of all the people I talked about, families, veterans, seniors, coming together, taking care of each other. And I think we all are proud of it being here in our community, a YIMBY, if you will.
Greg, I had the Shell station across the street from Astor Street for many years, and I know what kind of Astor was a disaster. It was a crime, drugs, everything else. Now, do you own the entire cul-de-sac?
17.
18, yeah, that will be 18. So is there any other individual owners in between?
There are.
There are few?
Other units that are owned by other individuals in the community rented at
So
market rates.
next question. Everybody understands that the homeless challenge is overwhelming, not only Escondido, but everywhere. And so did you respond to that overwhelming demand on homelessness? How much time do the homeless families stays in these complexes? 4 units, how many homeless can go there and for how long? And how can we also prioritize that we should provide those to Escondido resident? If an Escondido resident has been here for 20, 25 years, I don't want somebody just coming through from San Diego here and take advantage of this. We would like to accommodate everybody, but I think we should give priorities for our veterans and homeless people who has been Escondido residents for a long time.
Sure, it's permanent housing, so the families, the households who move into this project, should it be approved, will be able to stay as long as they would like. In our experience, some stay for usually a couple years, some stay longer, and some have shorter stays. And also in our experience, the people we serve are really from this community. And even if they fall into homelessness, they fall into homelessness here in this community. There are individuals who come here having lived elsewhere, but it is the minority. And that's true here in Escondido. It's true throughout San Diego County. So we expect the vast majority to be from this community who will be moving into this project.
And we appreciate your partnership with the city to work. The city cannot solve the homeless crisis alone, but partnership with you and working together with nonprofit organizations, faith-based communities, we need to address that issue. And I think it has become an issue for the community and public safety issue. The police is doing their best to do that, but it's going to take a partnership. But now I hope the social media will pick up on that the city is awarding $450,000 to provide shelters for more homeless in our community. Thank you. Okay, any questions? So Greg? All right, well, thank you very much. Okay, well, we need to approve this item. I have a motion by Councilmember Gallo. I have a second by Deputy Mayor Masson. Please vote. It's working now.
5 yes votes.
Excellent. We move on to our current business, notice of completion, budget adjustment for the fiscal year 15-16, streets rehab and maintenance project. Staff report, please.
You don't look like Julie Procopio or Dan Higby. What's up with that?
For one of those, I'm grateful.
Dan?
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. I'm Matt Suter, Associate Engineer in Engineering Services, and I am here this evening for your approval to file the notice of completion for the fiscal year 15-16 street rehab and maintenance project. It takes a lot to put these projects on, and some of the 7 major elements to put a project together and put it out on the street is selecting one of our 8 maintenance zones, reviewing streets for their pavement condition, selecting street and alley treatments for the streets in the project, selecting sidewalk repairs to make, where to place pedestrian ramps, and street trees that are in need of replacement and where to put new ones. We also include bike lanes that are required of our funding, and we try to place them in areas that are needed and priority, and that are in compliance with the city's bike master plan. Maintenance zones, we have 8 of them. The city's broken up into those 8, and we have to select one for our annual project. How do we do that? We've gone through and we have found which streets which zones overall have the worst condition, and we did that a few years back, and we've created this rotation. You can see it there on the board. So back in 2013, we came to you, and we knew there was a concern about the deterioration of our streets, and we did a report on what it would take to at least maintain what we have, or what it would take to even improve them further. So from that, later that year, staff took our recommendation and approved a $4.7 million budget to do our maintenance and rehab projects annually, and we've done that ever since. And since that time, we have completed 3 projects. The first one being the ES zone a few years back. Last year's being the Central North zone there, the CN zone. And then this year's project that just wrapped up was in the Central South, or the CS zone. Next year's project will be up in the northeast or NE section, which is bound by Broadway on the west, El Norte Parkway / city limits to the south, and then city limits to the north. So the pavement condition index, it's a big, what it is a way to rate streets so we can compare them against each other and select the best variety of streets to receive treatment. We have to go out and survey all the streets in the zone, measuring them for distresses and other irregularities, and then we put it into our what we call Street Saver program to calculate what we call the pavement condition index, or the PCI. It's a number between 1 and 100, and even though we've done quite a bit of work over the last 3 years, the citywide PCI is currently 56. That's believe it or not, that's actually an improvement from what the model said we would have had if we would have kept doing work as we did in 2012 with less funding. It would have been at 51 by this time. In 2013, when we came to you to tell you, what we could do with our streets, there were 3 different alternate levels of investment, or strategies. So the previous program was about $1.7 million per year. The current program is $4.7 million per year. And then if we wanted to increase or improve the PCI even further, we had thought that it would take about $7.1 million. But that was over a 17-year period, and you can see how things could have or may have gone if we had made a different decision than what we did back then. So project accomplishments. Here we're looking at Redwood, and I think it's about 11th. You can see the before and after picture there is pretty significant. This is just using one of our treatments, and we get a lot of years out of that treatment, but it just brings gives a whole new fresh appeal and revitalizes that street for the community. So as part of this year's accomplishments, I have to say we did I think it was about 67 lane miles of treatments to our street, and that is approximately equivalent to driving from here down City Hall to downtown San Diego and back in one lane. So it's quite a bit. As part of these street improvements, we also had started a pilot program with last year's project to do some work in alleys. We heard you. It wasn't as successful as we wanted it to be, but we made some modifications, and we were at it again this year. See improvement, and we think there's still more improvement that we can do. Sidewalk repairs, it's another big element of the project. Here you're looking at kind of a before and after of some sidewalk that was really in need of some help. I think that's on 5th Avenue around Broadway. Pretty evident. I mean, it's just, I think with this year's project, we did about 16,000 square feet of sidewalk replacement, approximately a quarter of a mile if you went for a walk, so it was pretty significant. A lot to do. There's still more to do, but we think it turned out great. Just kind of another before and after picture of more sidewalk in about the same area. You can see the deterioration. We had a tree that was lifting things up, so that was removed, and we went in, and in this case it was pretty nice. We went in. We have the old historic Escondido pattern, and we went in and did that and tried to maintain the integrity of what we do in Old Escondido. Pedestrian ramps, another big element for city walking and health, and this along with the sidewalks are another big part of our projects. We typically focus on sidewalk areas in the areas of school to make sure that kids and their parents have a safe path to travel, and around the school areas and businesses as well. This year's project, I believe we installed or replaced 56 new pedestrian ramps. Street trees were another big element. We're a street city USA, or at least have been at some point, and they, as beautiful as they are, we have to evaluate a lot of street trees. Even though our work, is primarily focused on the street and sidewalk. Put a lot of time into these. It's a significant effort and coordination with the community. And our primary focus is removing unhealthy trees or trees that are damaging our sidewalks, and in an effort to reduce future maintenance by staff. With this year's project, 43 trees were removed, and I think it was 51 new trees were installed. Bike lane striping and signage, as a part of our funding and as a part of our efforts to get people out there in alternate modes of transportation, we do a lot of bike lane striping. We review every street that comes in, and we have to put it back how it was, and then if it didn't have bike lane striping, we put it in, and we try to stay compliant with our bicycle master plan. With this year's project, we added or reestablished bike lane striping for almost 23,000 linear feet, which is about 4.4 miles. Here happens to be some of our work on, I think it's southbound CCP between 13th and Felicita. So there's good news for street enthusiasts, as in additional funds in the form of SB1 gas tax that were recently improved. Those funds can be used for road maintenance and rehabilitation work. We start receiving them in January of 2018, and so next year's forecast or projection is we'll have about 860,000 of those funds, and future year projections are in the magnitude of 2.5 million
per year.
Per year. In conclusion, Council's implementation of the $4.7 million annual street maintenance funding in 2013 is paying off. We have stabilized road conditions, and we continue to realize a PCI increase since that time. I know it says 55 to 56, but it has kept us from going down. So that's
would like to see 55 to 65.
I do too.
All he needs is $3 million more.
Yeah, we'll talk SB1 gas tax after this. Maintained roads not only look nicer, but they help reduce congestion, reduce risks, create opportunities to place traffic calming measures for pedestrians, and clearly defined bike lanes in compliance with our bicycle master plan as well. The project was successful in part to a Cal Recycle grant that we received in the amount of $145,981 to use something we'd already used, and we use quite a bit as ARAM. It's a rubberized chip seal on our streets. Thus, the request for a budget adjustment to accept those grant funds that will allow us to treat additional streets next year. At this time, city staff request City Council accept this year's project with PAL Engineering as complete.
Thank you for the thorough staff report. I don't have any speakers. This is a current business. Then I'll bring it back to council members' discussion and action. Council Member Morasco first.
Okay, quick question. You started off by showing us the process of how streets were determined, how they're rated. It's all very scientific. It works really well. What happens, and this is something that's come up recently, a particular neighborhood who feels that their street, and when it's proposed to be repaired, is too far down the road, and so they want to petition the city in writing that there be a modification of that timeline. How does that play? How does the subjectivity play into the objective, data that you guys utilize for the scheduling?
The maintenance zones we discussed were for residential focus. We steps outside the maintenance zone boundaries for streets of their local collector and above. So we do look into bigger streets that are in worse condition. So I mean, if you've watched the project, you'll see us doing larger streets all around the city. In those cases, when we receive a complaint about that and the safety concern, we go out and we take a look. If I see an immediate safety concern, I'll get our public works maintenance staff involved to make the temporary repair for now. And if we think that'll suffice until we actually get there, we'll just keep plodding forward, because we're trying to stay on our maintenance zones, because everybody wants work done. If we deem that we can do that for now, but it's not going to hold for long, we'll try to incorporate that street into our upcoming cycle and get the repair done then.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Councilmember Gallo.
Yeah. One of your slides, I forget which number it was, you had the 16-17 fiscal year. That's what we're talking about now?
Well, the next one's going to be 16-17, and the one we just are requesting completion for.
16-17 now.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the funding cycle is. So we are working on the project for this summer.
Okay, so I noticed on your city map that you had your different locations, NE and CN and all those things. Yeah. You see the CN there?
Yes.
You see just to the right and to the top and all that? That's the Mission Park area for the most part. That happens to be in District 1.
We know that.
And
we know this.
You're
taking the lion's share.
We need some help.
I'm sorry, what was the area? It was the north, kind of the northeast corner of that?
Yeah, just south of El Norte over to, that looks like Ash.
Oh, okay.
Et cetera. Okay?
Yeah.
You've been taken care of already.
Huh?
In 14-15.
No.
Well, I will say this, is that the 4.7 million was a big jump to improve our streets. That being said, there are so many miles of road in each maintenance zone. Let's say there's 75. We were able to accomplish about 67 miles of pavement. So you can see, though we're making grounds, it's going to take additional funding to at least get us to where we're doing a complete maintenance zone per year. And even make further strides.
Now, we're doing a pretty good job on potholes, okay? I'm going to have constituents, one happens to be in this room, who have called about their street. Now, it's a residential street, it's not a collector. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you prioritize collector over residential, or what your process is.
Residential, we pretty much stick to the zone. We try to group things together. It's nice when you see a whole community just transformed. Instead of picking streets here and there, it looks unorganized. So we try to make sure that everybody in a certain if we do a whole quadrant, and then we'll move somewhere else. But so then when you go to the bigger streets, we search citywide for the kind of the worst ones or ones that we think that we can do the most for.
I appreciate that. I just want to get moved up on the list.
Okay. Well, good try.
The other thing is, we're banking on this SB1 bloated gas tax thing that's going to go out. And one of the proposals from our illustrious governor was the electric cars will pay a flat fee. And I thought it seemed kind of low. And if you figure out, the average driving is 12,000 miles a year, and if your car gets 20 miles to the gallon, you're going to buy 600 gallons of fuel, and the gas tax is now how much, Sam?
It's over 54 cents.
Okay, let's say 50 cents.
Without the sales tax.
Okay, 50 cents, no, just the gas tax. 50 cents, that's $3,000 a year. I don't think the electric cars are paying $3,000 a year, okay? And this is why I have a problem. Because they tear up the roads just as good as any gas combustion engine vehicle does, okay? And I am all part of the movement to have that damn thing blown out. So when you're budgeting, our city manager has to work with this, and so does Julie, because streets are her thing. And I hope you're not going to count on all this extra money coming in to figure out your budget. That's my issue.
Well, we had a game plan, I think Matt will say, even before that. So this simply augments the existing game plan.
Right. Okay. Councilmember Masson.
Yeah, I just want to thank you guys for your efforts. I appreciate it, and I'm very happy to see District 2 lined up and teed up for the next set of spending. And yeah, well, we haven't had any love yet, so.
Well, guys, you can fight. You can fight among the districts as much as you can. My city, I am citywide, so I am funding neutral. So that's okay. Whatever the money goes.
Well, and I think if we can find more money to, I don't want to say throw at our street program, we need to do it, because if they continue to deteriorate, it's going to cost more to fix them later. So I think if we can get a space where we can throw more money at it, get caught up, get into the 75, 80% CPI or whatever.
That would be great.
And we're good.
I have to say that the funding helped, and then us as a team, when we, at that same time that we came and talked to you about that, we had created a new program, which we're implementing now. And so the program has evolved and it's improved. I think our first year we did about 45 lane miles of work. Last year we did 58, and this year we're up to 67. So it's us getting better, us figuring out the treatments that are working, and so, everything helps on that side. We'll continue to, find new things that will stretch our dollar, and hopefully we'll be covering a whole maintenance zone a year. That's kind of a goal.
Great. Councilmember Diaz.
Yes, some months ago I bought a new car, and part of the test drive out of the Escondido Auto Park was in District 2 to see how the car handled potholes.
Oh, boy.
So don't fix those, because the Volvo dealer really uses those as a selling point. So anyway, I just thought that was funny, and the girl didn't know who I was, and she was like, yeah, and look at how it handles potholes. I'm like, I thought she was complaining, but she had no idea. So I thought that was cute. So somebody values them. The district area ES around Mountain View Park and Oak Hill, a lot of those streets had work done several years ago, and you just mentioned that every year we do more miles, but there were a lot of areas that just sort of never got touched, right? And there are some streets around there that I noticed specifically. I spend a lot of time around Mountain View Park, and I live in that area. That students at Orange Glen High School and Hidden Valley Middle School, they flood that whole neighborhood, and some of the streets don't have sidewalks, and the Mountain View part of the road specifically is eroding, and so the drivable part is so narrow now. There was never a sidewalk to begin with, but even the asphalt is just chipping away at the ends. And this year with all the rains, it was obvious how much flooding there was in different areas, and we've had city crews doing something to, I guess, sewer pipes right on Mountain View. I don't know what all you're doing, but you've been closing that road. So it seems to me that the focus should be in areas where people are walking to school, and you did that in the old Escondido area neighborhood, but all around Orange Glen High School and Hidden Valley Middle School, Citrus is really bad in the morning when kids are trying to walk to school. It is just a disaster, and I mean, to drive or to walk. Right, and you drive it on your way to work, right? And so there, it's so unkempt. And I look at the homes in that area when I'm, walking or driving or whatever, and they're probably 60s, 70s, 80s homes, but pretty large lots by today's development standards, and a lot of them have started being purchased and remodeled, and they're beautiful on an ugly street. And so I always think that about property value and our investment in adding infrastructure to neighborhoods that are kind of seeing a revival, I think would somehow be recouped in increased property tax. But, if people are investing in a house or two and then suddenly the whole block is turning over, if we put a sidewalk in some of those areas, it'd be gorgeous. So I don't know, as I'm looking around at where the potential is in Escondido, the older neighborhoods that are sort of coming back are areas. And I know if I were looking around to buy a house, even an investment property or a fixer-upper, the condition of the street and the lack of a sidewalk would be a lot to influence whether I would commit to a home to restore. So just look at Mountain View. I mean, if you just stop and look, the houses are really pretty, and they have like an acre flat, each of them. They're gorgeous, when they get remodeled. But the street is hideous, and that's on us, I think.
Just a quick response, without regard to any particular district. You'll notice that one of our slides talked about investment, and I think that's the proper way to view investment. It's not just an investment in the surrounding properties, but it's an investment in the community. When this council talks about priorities with basic public services, certainly paved streets are one of those, and well-paved streets. One other thing we've done is several of you may have received emails about residents along Hamilton Lane, where we've been doing a big drainage project. One of the things we've discovered in working with that is that outreach to the neighbors and education levels is very critical. Some folks think it's just a draining project. Well, that contractor actually will repave a good part of that street all nice and pretty when they're done, and in addition, the remainder of the streets on the schedule. And then we're trying to get the website updated with the schedule so that we can educate people about these zones, the index. And a lot of times, even when folks understand that there's a bit of a scientific process and that they're on a schedule, that itself, I think, helps people feel better.
I think good comments from every council members. I think we have established a pretty good system based on priorities. I know, but when I was elected mayor, I went to each city council meeting, and San Marcos, they had this indexing things, and they had 70%, and I came to Mr. Phillips at that time. I said, "What is our index?" We didn't have one. We didn't know what the situation is. But definitely, I'm very glad that as we started this process and the measurement, and according to your staff report in the 2010 or 2011, when the index that measures the status of the roads goes beyond 70, it's going to cost up to 10 times as much as maintaining above 70 index. So instead of changing the whole pavement, and that's why now we're investing more and more. And once we reach the 70, I think we're going to need less dollars to maintain it. But look, when I receive requests for stop sign or a road improvement or anything, I'll forward it to staff, and I appreciate you go and visiting the site and making sure, well, this is going to be next year, but right now we need to do something that addresses the public safety. We do it. I know on 13th and Felicita, I think, the senior citizen and the church, they were not planned for a long time, but that intersection with people on wheelchair were crossing from the senior citizen to the church was really a bad situation, and we have replaced the whole intersection there. So, and then and 6, yeah, thank you. And then so I think I appreciate the staff responding to a lot of requests. We get a lot of feedback from the people that our city looks better, our roads looks better. But now everybody is asking, when is my turn? So I think the staff is doing a good job in prioritizing those. prioritizing the safety concerns and then moving forward. But you know, as Councilmember Masson said, it's going to take millions of dollars more. But we used to spend 1.7 million a year on roads, and that was not enough. That's why we were behind. Now we put $3 million more, and I think this is good. So I appreciate the update. We need to approve this item. Okay, I have a motion by Deputy Mayor. Is still not working? Okay. So I have a motion by Deputy Mayor Masson. I have a second by Councilmember Diaz. Please vote. Councilmember Diaz, thank you.
5 yes votes.
Okay, excellent. We move on to our item 10, workshop, fiscal year 2017-18 operation budget, briefing and adoption of budgetary and financial policies.
18. Yeah.
All right. The green team.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. Tonight you will be receiving information on the preliminary preparation for fiscal year 17-18 operating budget. The development of this budget has been an effort of all city staff. However, tonight, presenting the information will be Joan Ryan, Assistant Finance Director, Jody Coco, Budget Manager, and myself, Cheryl Bennett, Administrative Services Director. We have staff available from the various departments if you have follow-up questions. Tonight we will be covering the following topics in our briefing. We'll review the budget calendar. We'll review general fund sources, uses, revenue, and expenditures. We'll do an overview of added regular full-time positions. We'll review new budgetary and financial policies. And we'll conclude with council discussion and direction to staff as we prepare for the preliminary budget document and the meeting on June 14th. As you can see from the slide, we have 4 key budget dates in the next 2 months. After tonight's preliminary budget overview, Council will receive the preliminary operating budget document on May 31st and the preliminary capital improvement budget on June 7th. There are 2 scheduled public hearings, which include June 14th for the operating budget and June 21st for the capital improvement budget. If needed, additional dates can be added to this calendar. The operating budget development is a dynamic process. The voices of the community and elected officials through the City Council Action Plan set the goals for the key outcomes of city services through the budget process. The City Council's Action Plan has 4 major segments: economic development, fiscal management, neighborhood improvement, and public safety. The budget incorporates these with the goal of achieving economic health, a safe community, a high-performing local government, neighborhood livability, and effective transportation routes throughout the city of Escondido. Staff will provide you detailed information at our meeting on June 14th. Tonight's presentation will focus on key revenue and expenditure assumptions, as well as highlights on several items that it will have a significant effect on our budget. Joan will now provide you information on general fund sources and uses.
The proposed fiscal year 17-18 general fund operating budget is structurally balanced. The general fund is not spending more on ongoing uses than what is being received in ongoing sources. The general fund revenue estimate is $97.1 million, or a projected 3% increase over the prior year. Prior year growth was projected to be 4.4%, and we are on target to reach this growth. Transfers in total $2,092,000 and are the same as the prior year, with the majority of the transfer in coming from gas tax. The general fund expenditure estimate is $98.5 million, or a projected increase of $5.8 million, and Jody will be discussing the reasons for these increases a little later in the presentation. Transfers out and advances total $703,720 and are down about $160,000 compared to the prior year. The transfer out from the general fund to community services recreation of about $223,000 is no longer needed now that this department is part of the general fund. In addition, the fire department advance from the public facilities fund has been paid in full, so the $110,000 annual payment has been eliminated. These decreases are offset by a couple of new transfers out. one to the after-school and education safety program in the amount of $67,290 to cover indirect costs not covered by the grant, and the other transfer out is to the Reedy Creek Golf Course of $102,000 to cover operational costs. This next chart shows the general fund revenue projections for 17-18. The first two columns in this chart compare general fund projected revenue for fiscal year 17-18 to revised fiscal year 16-17 revenue. The third column shows the change in revenue between the two fiscal years, and the last column shows the percentage change in revenue. The fiscal year 17-18 general fund revenue projection was based on a review of historical revenue data, expertise from our outside sales tax consultant, and current economic data. Historically, general fund revenue has grown on average 4% over the past 5 years. Our outside sales tax consultant continues to project positive growth in sales tax, although slowing. The economic outlook continues to be on a positive trend, with economic indicators improving, but at a much slower rate. This is why we are projecting a more moderate growth in revenue of 3%, or $2.9 million. Next, we will discuss some of the assumptions that were made concerning our 5 largest revenue categories in the general fund. So starting with sales tax, we are projecting growth in revenue of 2% to reach projected revenue of $38.1 million. Historically, sales tax has averaged around 8.4% growth over the past 5 years. Muni Services is projecting sales tax growth for Escondido of 2 to 3%. Economic indicators that drive spending and therefore sales tax include the unemployment rate, total number of persons employed, and consumer confidence. Calendar year 2016 showed record numbers for these indicators. However, it is unclear how these numbers will continue, so we will continue to monitor sales tax revenue closely. Property tax revenue is projected to increase by 3% to reach projected revenue of $12.3 million. Property tax growth has averaged around 3% over the past 5 years. The major factors influencing property tax revenue are the California Consumer Price Index, number of home sales, and increased median home prices. The State Board of Equalization determined that the California CPI increased by 2.619%, so the Prop 13 inflation factor for fiscal year 17-18 will be 2%. This means that assessed valuation of properties not improved or sold will increase by 2% in fiscal year 17-18. In addition, the median price for a home in Escondido for calendar year 2016 averaged $450,000, which is an increase of 3% from calendar year 2015. As homes sell, this increased price will become the new assessed value for property tax increases. For these purposes, a reasonable projection for next year's property tax revenue is an increase of 3%. Property tax in lieu of vehicle license fees is estimated to increase by 4% to reach projected revenue of $12.8 million. Growth of this revenue is based on the change in assessed value of taxable property in the city from the prior year. Prior year assessed value on taxable property was up 5%. The 5% increase in revenue for other taxes is primarily based upon projected increases in the franchise fee collected from SDG&E. This change is attributable to a change in the methodology used to calculate the franchise fee payment. Staff and consultants have been closely tracking the methodology approved by the California Public Utilities Commission. In addition, the RPTTF residual payment is projected to increase by $321,000. This is the result of the former redevelopment agency's reduction in outstanding debt service payments, which results in a larger ending residual balance. This larger ending residual balance is shared among all the taxing entities, and the city of Escondido receives a share. And charges for services are projected to increase by 3% to reach projected revenue of $11.6 million. Charges for services include developer processing fees, paramedic fees, and recycling fees. In addition, moving the Recreation Department to the general fund means the revenue of $2.3 million also moves. Of the overall increases in charges for services, the majority of the increase is attributable to a projected increase in paramedic fees due to a fee increase that went into effect July 1, 2016. And now I'm going to hand it over to Jody to talk about the increases in expenditures.
The overall change in proposed general fund expenditures is a $5.8 million or 6.3% increase. The most significant increases are within employee services and maintenance and operations. Employee services has increased by about $3.1 million, which is primarily due to $1.7 million in salary increases, a projected $1.1 million increase in the cost of PERS, and $200,000 increase in workers' comp charges. M&O has increased by approximately $2 million, primarily for the following items also mentioned in the staff report: $640,000 for radio replacement and regional communication system financing, approved by Council on April 26th. Recreation M&O of $530,000 has been included within the general fund. $360,000 for the cost of planning, project review, and case file management services, which is offset by an increase in revenue. The cost of M&O in the PD department has increased by about $210,000 for items such as patrol and field supplies, safety equipment, training, cell phone service, and laptop upgrades. The streets department has included an increase of about $90,000 for street asphalt and Bear Valley Parkway maintenance. Other items of significance include an increased capital outlay of about $200,000 for the replacement of the fire station alerting system and the addition of 2 new radios. The increase in internal service charges reflects Recreation's internal service charges of $590,000 being added to the general fund, as well as a $540,000 increase in radio charges for the financing of the radio replacements and regional communication system. And fleet services charges have also increased by about $140,000. These increases have been offset by a decrease in general liability insurance charges of around $370,000. And then allocations out for services provided to other funds have increased by about $400,000.
Next, we would like to highlight several items in the proposed budget that are of very high priority. That would be public safety, the next-gen RCS radio replacements, city appearance, and CalPERS. As I mentioned earlier, the budget has a strategic plan of the Council Action Plan. I would like to highlight several key areas of this focus. Public safety continues to be the largest component of the general fund, comprising 66%. We have a fully staffed police and fire departments. Equipment for both of these departments is continually being assessed for high-quality service delivery. The budget will include complete radio replacement and associated infrastructure. Both budgets are proposed to have increases of 4.5% for police and 3.3% for fire. The budget document will be slightly different in structure with a new line item detail. Beginning in July 2017, CalPERS will be billing differently. They will bill for the city's normal cost, which is the annual cost of active employees' pension benefits, which is a percentage of payroll. Then they will bill monthly for the unfunded pension liability, which is the current value of the benefit for all past service of city employees in the CalPERS system. CalPERS will now bill in that manner with the goal of paying off unfunded liabilities in a 30-year amortization schedule. The city is preparing for the implications of the increased costs in our long-term financial planning process. CalPERS recently adopted a policy to reduce the discount rate from 7.5% to 7% over 3 years, beginning in July of 2018. This was done to close CalPERS' cash flow gap due to a change in market conditions, to strengthen long-term sustainability of the fund, to pay promised benefits, and to reduce the risk of volatile contribution increases in the future from market investments. This will result in further increasing costs. Preliminarily, we are estimating an additional cost of 1% to 3% of normal cost for the miscellaneous plan and 2% to 5% of normal cost for the safety plan. Additionally, a 30% to 40% increase in unfunded accrued liability payments. We'll know specifically about the rate increases this summer when we get our valuation reports from CalPERS. The information provided here is based on estimates from information that CalPERS gave us, and we utilize that just for broad information. And again, we'll have better information in July. So CalPERS will continue to assess the health of the program, and they actually may consider additional changes in the future, including the discount rate reduction. Due to the significant cost of CalPERS, the city has made this a top priority for budget planning and fiscal stability. We have identified CalPERS normal cost and unfunded liability separately in the budget document and included in the multi-year financial plan. In September 2017, we will have an actuary present a workshop for council on CalPERS and possible options for addressing long-term costs. As I mentioned, a 30-year plan to pay off the unfunded liability has already been implemented by CalPERS. At the end of last fiscal year, our council set up a reserve fund for PERS rate smoothing to assist when rates are exceeding what was expected or applied towards unfunded liabilities. I'll now pass it on to Joan.
So on April 26th, the City Council approved the purchase of the radios and paying the regional for the communication system. Annually, the principal and interest on these two loans will be $724,000. Of this amount, approximately $86,000 will be paid from public facilities fees, $132,000 will be paid by utilities, and the remaining balance of $506,000 will be paid by the general fund and has already been incorporated in the proposed 17-18 operating budget. This effort aligns with the public safety goals to more effectively use technology to improve emergency services, reporting requirements, and service to the community. Now Jody will talk about how the budget addresses other council priorities of city safety and appearance.
City safety and appearance continues to be a priority. Police, code enforcement, public works, and CDBG continue to focus on this area. Additional specific items have also been included in the council action plan to meet this goal as well, such as continuing the neighborhood transformation project. In regards to added full-time positions, a GIS tech will be added to the general fund. This position will be supervised by GIS but provides services to water and wastewater, so the cost of that position will be 100% allocated out of the general fund. A recreation coordinator is proposed to be added to the ACES department and is 100% grant funded. One position will be added to water. This is due to an asset program manager position in the wastewater fund that has been reclassed to an asset program coordinator position and moved into the water fund, which results in a decrease in the cost of employee services. And as a result of a reorganization of human resources and benefits administration departments, one position is proposed to be added to the benefits administration department and HR tech. In addition, once you receive the hard copy of the budget document, you will also notice that 8 positions from the recreation department have been included in the general fund. It is the city's goal to maintain ongoing financial structural stability by aligning financial capacity with long-term service objectives. As part of this process, the city will be evaluating opportunities for outsourcing city operations, such as graffiti eradication, library services, plan checking services, shopping cart retrieval, and other areas where cost savings or additional efficiencies can occur without disrupting service levels. There are many benefits to having budgetary and financial policies, some of which are safeguarding of resources and providing guidance for the development and administration of the operating budget and long-term financial plan. This evening, City Council will be asked to adopt several budgetary and financial policies which implement several items included in the action plan regarding fiscal management. Some of these policies are listed here on this slide. The remaining policies were included in the staff report with additional narrative.
This concludes staff presentation. Staff is available for your questions and consideration to assist us in moving forward and preparing the preliminary operating budget document. We request that you also adopt Resolution 2017-67 to establish budgetary and financial policies. And with that, we turn it over to you to inquire and give us direction.
Well, this is a workshop. I don't have one single request to speak. Although it has been posted on some social media, and I hope an input from the people here at the workshop would be most beneficial. Let me make a comment. We're going to go back. Congratulations, Jeff and staff, for the first time, we have a budget that truly reflected the action plan, the city council priority. We have said that, and we are in the budget for the first time. You know, I see eradicating graffiti. Thank you, Jeff. We see structurally balanced budget and public safety, the city image and appearance, and the pension. The priorities are exactly what the action plan is. I'm very pleased. I'll have some more comments, but I don't have any requests from the public. I will start with the city council comments. Council Member Masson.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, staff. You guys did a wonderful job. Appreciate you responding to our council action plan. I really liked the financial policies and the budget areas. I'd read that. You hit the nail on the head, covered everything very well. One thing I would like to consider adding is under item 15, when you're talking about assessing our capital assets and getting an understanding of maybe what might be needed for future expenditures, it'd be nice to present that to the council and maybe have that added to the policy. So we get to see that maybe on an annual basis or every 2 years, whatever it is. So we have an understanding of what the needs are as well going forward. But I was really very impressed with this work. So thank you very much.
Councilmember Gallo.
Just regarding the capital assets, that's all the properties that the city owns. And, you know, many years ago, I asked for a list of all the properties that the city owns. And we got it for a few years, and then Debbie Lundy started it again, and that lasted for a couple of years, and I haven't seen a new list.
You're talking about the real properties?
Yeah, real properties.
Do you want to see the secret ones too, or? No, actually, I'm sure we have that list. We'll dust it off and get it out to you.
Well, I got to tell you, that's why I asked, because I found properties that the city owned that was not on the list. And because that was way back when I did detective work.
And I was just going to say capital assets will also include like vehicles and equipment, buildings.
Right.
Okay.
And I'd just like to mention regarding
the question I had on the
regarding
your
inquiry about the city properties. We have a comprehensive database now of all those city properties and are able to provide you that information readily. So if you're able to find some
I used to ask
properties
for
we
it
don't
every
have, that
I used to ask for it every year because I just want to see what is it we own.
Okay.
And it started off when I was on transportation, and we had a different city manager who I never did like. And I asked a question,
That's before Clay.
What properties does the city own? And everybody looked at it, all the talking heads looked at each other. We'll get back to you. Well, guess what? I got back on this council in 2000, and that was probably in 1992, and I didn't get an answer until about 2002. So it took 10 years to get the list of properties. But anyway, that's another story. I noticed the PEG fees. Okay, that's attributed to the cable fees. Am I right? Franchise fees? And I'm just wondering, it's not a big amount, it's $11,000, okay. But I'm just wondering, with cable being hammered by DirecTV and Dish, and now there's an article in the Union Tribune every Sunday on how to cut the cable, through, you probably have it, Apple TV and all this kind of stuff. Huh? Right. So that cuts out the cable fees, and so there's a potential, like I said, it's not a big amount of money, but
it might be.
It's possible that cable fees, franchise fees, might be going down because they keep jacking up the fees to compensate for probably loss of revenue because of people cutting out the cable. The other area of concern for me is I always look at the sales tax projections, and I think that's reasonable, 2%. I even have a problem with that, even though it's a low amount. I just read the other day about car sales have pretty much plateaued. There's a potential that it could be a decline for next year. Who knows? It's a crapshoot. But at least they say that car sales, we've enjoyed increasing volumes over the past few years, have kind of, you reach a point of no return and you kind of level out. So
you need to buy a new car.
Huh? No, I like my Crown Vic. I like driving around a police car. And then the brick and mortar stores are in trouble nationwide. And so, you know, we have a potential to lose sales tax revenue there. But overall, I guess the 2%.
2% is
Did I get this right, that your overall projection is a 6% increase in the operating budget?
No, the overall revenue is 2% or 3%. I think you're thinking of the expenditure side.
Right. That's a 6% increase.
Part of that is because the recreation department was moved.
It's now included in the budget, right?
Everything is skewed now. And I think, let's see, property tax. I'm just wondering if that's an accurate guesstimate, because of all the projects that we have on the board. There's a lot of projects come up off the ground now that will hit the property tax rolls, you know, this next fiscal year. And not that you should count on it, but there's a potential that if the sales tax kind of drops a little bit, that may be, that might overcome, the increased property tax might overcome some of the deficiencies in the sales tax. So I think we'll be okay there, but I'm just wondering if we might have underestimated possibly, but I don't want to go over. Okay, I mean, what you did is fine. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, Councilmember Diaz.
Thank you. So I like the precursor to the actual real budget document review. So I'll save this staff report, and then when I get the other budget, I'll go through it and try and find those things. But a couple of things I wanted to point out. There are a lot of policy ideas in here, or I guess policy decisions about long-term financial well-being of the city. And I have to admit that I'm really impressed with our new city treasurer. Just he's been more visible, and he seems to clearly know what he's talking about. So I know we're not required to have him help us, but I kind of feel like it would be nice if he would also like kind of co-own some of these things with us.
I actually met with him this afternoon to get his revenue estimates, and I haven't even shared these with our staff yet, but he's on board. I know we have a much higher level of communication with the treasurer now. He is looking at, I believe, coming to you in June with some changes that actually should boost the revenue from your portfolio. So we're on board with that. We're working with him. He's got a lot of great ideas.
I'm happy to hear that, because I know we try, but he clearly understands that industry outside of our own capability here. So the other thing is about grants. Grants will be actively sought, and I don't think we've ever turned down a grant, but I don't know that we have a grant writer, like somebody who just goes out and finds this type of opportunity for us.
Julie.
We actually have several, I believe, or a bunch.
Yeah, we do. Actually, Karen Ewell manages our grant, and we have a grant software that helps us search for grants. It's called eCivis. But she manages all, she does the heavy lifting, so to speak, finding the grants, preparing them, pulling them all together, and then talking with the subject matter experts to be sure that she has cost estimates and the data to back up the grants. We've been very successful. Several grants from Sandag, from a couple from the state recently. We have a grant writer Karen's doing a fantastic job for sure.
So I guess it's the Sandag ones and the police ones to me seem like that happens a lot. And I don't know, I'm thinking like skate parks. There's money out there for skate parks and public parks and libraries and the other things that are usually more on the wish list and maybe even to some degree considered, luxury expenditures. There's a lot of money in those areas, and I never see us really have to approve those. So that's where I say, I know about Karen, and I know that she is capable of grant writing, but I don't see us being very aggressive about grant writing. Maybe it's just because you're going after big money for roads and stuff, as opposed to, I don't know, I've done grant writing, so I feel like there's a lot more activity we could generate. Maybe that's something to consider. Well, it's funny, there was a time I did offer, in fact, I did get one time to work with Karen one time on a grant, but then Clay wouldn't let me anymore. So I just see like opportunities when these things come across my desk or in other settings for all of us, like, should I just be emailing these things to Karen and say, hey, here's something, if you can decide to chase it or not?
Yeah.
Okay.
Email to us, because we may circulate it elsewhere as well.
Okay, because that to me is like, I've never really known what to do with that. But in our line of work, we come across a lot of opportunities. Some of them we chase, some of them we don't. But certainly we should be sharing that knowledge with somebody at the city. So I'll do that. But so grants, send an email. The rest of it I think is fine. I want to look at the real numbers or all the complete set of numbers. But I remember one request from Councilman Masson or Deputy Mayor Masson from last year's budget cycle. And I remember it because I've made it many times, but I think last year they actually heard it. That in when we have our budget discussions, it comes in stages. We do a CIP review, we do the general fund review, the CAFR comes to us after the audit is done, and if you really want to get a clear picture of the entire financial health of the city, you have to go fishing for information in multiple locations. So to have a summary of those critical documents in the budget would be helpful, just so we don't have to go chase it.
We
heard you. Yeah.
And I wanted to remind you that we notified you last fall that we're revamping the budget document completely. It's going to look a lot different, and we're incorporating a lot of those recommendations, such as fund balance information I know you had a specific interest in.
Good.
So we will have those, and we're excited to give you the draft document.
I'm so excited to read it.
Excellent. Well, again, since I was elected mayor, that's the 7th year in a row we will have a structurally balanced budget. Some other defines balanced budget. If you use reserves or taxes or something, it's still balanced budget. Yes, it is a balanced budget, but not a structurally balanced budget. Structural budget is you spend what you get. And I believe this is a tremendous amount of work and millions of dollars saved through efficiency to get to this point. However, I would like to remind my colleagues that this is the least challenging budget from now on. We're going to have more challenges. I am concerned about the next 5 years, where we are expected to come up with $5 million a year, $20 million the next 4 years. It's extremely challenging. You have seen the pension, the 30-40%. All the pension presentation, Cheryl, is reflected in the same projections we had at the action plan, going to $40 million in 2022, right?
So as I mentioned when we were giving the CalPERS presentation, component of this, that we have estimates that we're working with. That information is at the most conservative and the highest end of contribution rates that were estimated by CalPERS. So they gave us ranges like I talked about, but in July we will know for sure exactly what that's going to look like.
And it's not going to get better. I know that. You said
doing the presentation in September.
I'm sorry, didn't you?
Doing the presentation to us in September.
For the actuaries.
We're going to have an actuary.
Do we know who it is?
John Bartel, who you've had before.
Okay. So you said there will be an increase of 30 to 40% in the pension obligations. Is that the 196 million underfunded?
That's the unfunded liability.
So the 30 to 40% increase is reflected in the 196 million?
In payments that we need to make, annual payments.
Oh, that's the annual payment.
Yes, we pay down
Okay.
liability with the 30-year amortization.
Okay, because we have two figures. We have the annual obligation and we have the underfunded liability, which is at 196 million. Because we're right.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, I just want to caution you. So, obviously, whenever any problem comes up, you want to jump all over it. This one, we have to have a certain amount of a measured approach to it. So we've developed, obviously, there's early numbers, there's ranges of numbers, and it's prudent to go worst case scenario when that's all you have. We will have better numbers in July. Okay. So right now well, as you can see from the slide, we've got a 5-part strategy in place already. A part of that is you wait until July, we get the actual numbers from PERS. That then gives us more specific information to deal with. And then the second part is in September, when we'll sit down with the actuary, we'll have another workshop setting, and then we'll look at solutions and strategies, and again, that will involve specific numbers.
Right. So. I think the expectation, and we need to be prepared, and we are, because you have put it under the priorities there. CalPERS have reduced their portfolio investment, return on investment, from 7.5% to 7%. That has increased our obligation. We used to have the chart that $30 million, it went up to $40 million. And it has increased that obligation, just half a point. It has increased this obligation to $40 million. And now there is serious talk about CalPERS also reevaluating that to 6.5%. And that's going to increase the obligation. So this is, I hope, the state does not plan and work, through, but they work on a crisis mode. When there is a crisis, then they react. I hope there will be some attention given by the states to reduce these 2% and at 50 and 2% at 60 to new employees. This model is unsustainable, and I hope that I'm glad that it is on our priority. It is, we're monitoring it closely. We're bringing the actuary here to help us deal with that. And we're not the only city dealing with that. I think we are ahead of most of the cities in terms of financial stability and reserves and other things. So I'm happy with this outcome, and thank you for reflecting the priority of the city council. Now, the property tax issue, we learned that the 1% pie of the property tax, when it goes to the county, we don't get our proportionate share. We get below our proportionate share from that. And so a 3% increase in property values, it's not going to be reflected in 3% increase in property tax. We're going to get less because we are the lowest revenue percentage from the 1% pie in that. That's very unfortunate, but that's the way it is. But at least it's going up, and hopefully we will get it. I like the projection, a very, very conservative projection. We're going to end up with a balanced budget again for the 7th year in a row, and we appreciate the good work. I led this effort to include the recreation in the budget. Nobody has given me a good reason why we have the recreation separate. So it's like having two budgets, and now we have one budget that we can see it, we can monitor it, we can evaluate it in a better way. So we need to approve Resolution 2017-67. I need a motion and a second.
Second.
I have a motion by Deputy Mayor Masson. I have a second by Council Member Morasco. Please vote to adopt the resolution.
5 yes votes.
Excellent. Okay. We move on to our future agenda. Any items, Council? Good. Okay, Council members, subcommittee reports. Subcommittee reports.
Only.
Mr. Gallo. Okay.
No stories.
Not subcommittee reports. You're talking about outside agency reports.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
The subcommittee was something from the city council.
Okay.
I sound like Krusty the Clown. San Diego Water Authority, we got a letter. A letter was sent by our supervisor, Kristen Gaspar, and Diane Jacobs, to the Honorable Michelle Steele, Orange County Board of Supervisors in Santa Ana, letting them know how much they've been overcharged by Metropolitan Water District. So we're trying to get some additional muscle on our side by letting them know, if they didn't know, apparently they don't know, that they've been getting screwed all these years. Let's see. We had,
I think
every year the Water Authority does, it's called the Greater San Diego Science Project. And we have kids that come in there with these projects from different schools. And I got to tell you, these kids are just brainiacs. I mean, they come up, it has to do with water. One girl came up with a test, she was a freshman, either eighth grade or freshman, came up with a plan to test for lead in water. She said it costs about $1. Very simple. I mean, here's this 13-year-old kid comes up with this deal on how to test for lead in water. And it's so topical. I mean, that's why she picked that subject. And I think everybody knows that the Sierra snowpack is 191% of normal. And wait till that thing starts melting. See, Northern California didn't make any plans to capture the water. They're just going to let it flood. They're already preparing for floods in Northern California. I mean, is that idiotic or what? what do these guys drink up there? Drinkers.
Special Kool-Aid.
Okay, then the knuckleheads come up with 3 paths for legislative consideration. They're going to come up with a regulation, a hybrid plan, and a legislation and then regulation on long-term water use and efficiency standards. You know what that's going to do? That's going to create another bureau up in Sacramento, and who knows how much that's going to cost. And then we're going to wonder with John, how come my water bill keeps going up and I use less? Water efficiency and drought plan. They're trying to come up with that. So I made a comment at our meeting. I said, why don't they just call us? We have the plan already in place. San Diego County. I mean, we've done it all. All I have to do is copy it. Plagiarize, I don't care. Anyway, thank you.
Okay, I have a SANDAG report. The most important subject we covered is ARGIS. ARGIS is the organizations that SANDAG take in collaboration with 82 participating agencies. Yeah, you can put it up there. And we have had a long discussion about ARGIS. And this is a good example when local government, local police, the county sheriff, the FBI, federal government, state public safety, and all the agencies working together to reduce crime. I had a discussion with Chief Carter, I think about a year or two ago, and he thought highly about ARGIS. There was some litigation about the license plate readers, whether it's a privacy issue or a public safety issue. So SANDAG reacted to this policy item. We changed that structure to make sure that we protect the privacy. At the same time, we do collect information from criminals. This you can take it out.
It's showing up there.
Oh, it's showing up there. That's fine. Okay. So this is a good example where at the SANDAG meeting, they mentioned Escondido and some 2 or 3 other agencies working together to solve crimes in multi-jurisdiction. So, and also the great benefit of collaboration between local public safety agencies and ICE and FBI. The question right now with SB 54, this is probably going to jeopardize this communication system. Guys in Sacramento have no idea what SB 54 is going to do. And I brought this issue, and the city attorney in SANDAG is going to bring that to us. I hope that will be the stronger opposition on SB 54 is growing, not only locally, but nationally. A lot of people are concerned about it, so I think that definitely will be a litigation on SB 54. But this is we changed the structure of ARGIS at SANDAG. We had more public safety police chiefs and sheriffs more than the elected officials, so we brought this balance back, and we have a good subcommittee at SANDAG with ARGIS. So I just wanted to stress the benefit of collaboration between public safety at all levels in solving crime and making San Diego County a safer place. So we're going to move forward and continue our collaboration unless we are told otherwise by our beloved state. So with that, okay, and also they're part of the system as well, we appreciate it. Okay, we move on to our city manager update briefing. Again, you have seen the new weekly activity report, very informative city manager's report to update us on all the project. It's also available online as well. Oral communications, I don't have any requests to speak. I hope I am right this time. Our next meeting will be May 10th. With that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.